Good morning. It's Wednesday, November the 18th, 2015. Woo! We're almost out of this year. I'm in at my shop today. Um, I was going to kind of finish up our conversation from last week. We were talking about Oracle decks. This week, I wanted to talk about tarot decks specifically. As I mentioned last week, Oracle decks are defined by the fact that they don't usually have a strict set of suits, and they're thematic. Tarot decks are defined by the fact that they have a suit. They have a set of suits. Usually there should be 4 suits, and those would be cups, pentacles or coins, swords, and wands. Okay? And then there's also a 5th set of cards, which is known as the major arcana. The sets of cards that are in suits are all known as the minor arcana. And I just wanted to give you a real brief rundown on a quick and dirty way of how to read your tarot cards. It's a little bit easier, it's a little more simplified than getting into the long drawn-out discussions and interpretations of each individual card. This actually allows you to know kind of within a couple of words what a card's meaning is. So, to start with, your major arcana is 22 cards. And in that 22 cards, what you have is a journey. Your first card of the major arcana is always the 0 card, and it's known as the Fool. This is the beginning of your journey. This is where you realize that you don't really know what you're up against. You don't know what you're coming into. You might have a rough idea of where you think you want to go, but really the path is still pretty murky, and you're just kind of setting out on this path. You're carefree, you're light. You really are just this blithe little fool. You're just starting this new journey. There's nothing wrong with that position. We've all been there, and we're all there several times within our lives. So your journey continues on, and it progresses through times of learning, times of empowerment, times of loss, times of major change, times of major movement. And it progresses on until you hit card number 21, which is known as the world or the universe. And at this point, that is supposed to be the understanding that you have culminated everything that you've needed to learn from that particular journey. But because life is a circle, because the tarot is also a circle, when you hit 21, when you hit the world, you then move into the next position, which is, of course, 0, the Fool, because you're preparing for the next part of your next journey in your life. So that's really roughly how the major arcanas work. And I'm not going to go through describing each of those cards because that'll take forever and a half. Sit with the cards and get to know them. Now, like I said, there are 4 different suits within a tarot deck. There are the cups. The cups deal with emotions, and they are a water element. There are the pentacles or coins. It depends on your deck. Those deal with the material world, and those are of the earth element. There are the swords. The swords deal with action, and they are the air element. And then there are the wands. The wands are all about energy or spirituality, and they're the fire. Okay? Within each of those suits, there are 14 cards. There are 1 through 10, and then there are pages, or sometimes they're known as princesses. There are knights. Sometimes those are also known as princes. There are queens, and there are kings. Okay, this sounds a lot like your standard deck of playing cards, right? There are some people out there who teach about the tarot do believe that the tarot comes from, or that regular playing cards actually come from the days of the tarot, and that the regular playing cards were created for the commoners to have, and that the major arcana was created for the priesthood to hold, because at that time it was not permitted for any one person to own an entire tarot deck. They were forbidden. But if the commoners had playing cards and the priesthood had the majors, then the commoners and the priesthood could come together and do a reading and do their learnings from these cards. I've also heard stories that the tarot deck was created as a way of telling the Christian story in a time when Christianity may not have been safe. I don't think any one person knows the actual true story of tarot anymore, because tarot has been around for so long. But that being said, So we have cups, pentacles, swords, and wands. We have 1 through 10, and we have page, knight, queen, and king. Okay? When I say that the suits all deal with elements, or they all deal with ideals, what you're going to do is you're going to take your number or your face card, and you're going to compare what that number or face card represents to the suit that it sits in. So like for the number 1, all number 1s, regardless of suit, deal with a spark or a seed. It is the very beginning. It is the very beginning of the suit. So if you're dealing with a spark or a seed, so let's say you have a 1 of cups, you are dealing with brand new emotions, the start of an emotional journey. You are dealing with maybe the first sparks of love or the first sparks of a relationship. You move into 2, you have choices and duality. This is your picking of your path, making your decisions. In 3, you're dealing with evolution and growth. In 4, you're dealing with foundation and stability, because 4, that's a nice, solid, squares are nice, solid shapes. You're not going to tip them. They don't tip, they're solid. 5, you then move into instability and fear. 6 brings about balance and harmony. 7 deals with creativity and individuality. 8 deals with strength and intelligence. 9 is integration and truth. 10 is completion and fulfillment. Your page is the earth sign, and it's youth and new beginnings. So let's back up to the numbers. So let's go back to, say, like 3, evolution and growth. If you've got a 3 of, let's say, pentacles, and we're dealing with evolution and growth, and pentacles is about the material world, this would be a good sign that the path that you're on right now, or the work that you're doing right now, is actually going to be very beneficial for your financial and fiscal world. Let's say you have a 5 in, let's say a 5 in wands, or 5 in swords. You have instability and fear. So your action is all going to be flavored by decisions made in fear and decisions made based on instability, and maybe not all of the information that you really necessarily need. Okay. So then we move into the face cards. We have the page, which, like I said, is represented by Earth, and it is about youth and beginnings. The Knight is represented by air, and it deals with adolescence and changes. The Queen is represented by water, and she is dealing with being creator and nurturing. And then the King is represented by fire, and he's representing ruling and movement. Sorry, my brain is kind of cooked today. So what is commonly understood is that when you're dealing with these face cards, let's say, for example, you have the Page of Pentacles, okay? The Page is an earth card, the Pentacles is an earth sign. So you have the ultimate earth in earth. That's the best stability you can ask for, okay? If you have a King of Wands, you have fire in fire. That is the strongest movement, the strongest forward momentum that you can have. To have a King in fire, especially if you're reading with if you don't read reversals, if you're reading everything as an upright, to have King in fire means that you are in your ultimate power for rulership, you are in your ultimate power for movement and for progress. If you have the Queen in Cups, you have the ultimate setting for like nurturing, for mothering, for caring for, and for being creative and creating. And if you have the Knight in Swords, that is your ultimate air. This is your intelligence, this is your thinking, this is your awareness. And you kind of work with it from there. It's almost like math. So let's say you have Page of Swords, so you have earth and air. So your page is about new beginnings and youthfulness, while your swords is about action. So you want to be cautious if you pull up, say, the Page of Swords, because you may be making a lot of really good momentum and a lot of motion, but it may all be with a very immature mind and immature ideals and immature thoughts. Not that you are immature per se, but that you don't have everything, you don't have enough knowledge to really make a good solid decision. and you may be moving into things in a very brash fashion. So that's kind of how you can do like a quick and dirty with tarot, without having to go through all the books and all the meditations and all the readings. And honestly, for all that, 2 post-it notes. That doesn't include the major, of course, but 2 post-it notes is all I need to be able to read the minor arcana of tarot and to be able to do a decent job with it. Okay? Which isn't to say don't study. I'm not by any means saying that. But if you're going to do readings for other people and you're going to do them regularly, do everyone a justice and study. Do your due diligence with it. But this is another way of saying tarot doesn't have to be the intimidating force that a lot of us feel that it is, because we're so overwhelmed by so many cards, so many words, so many ideals. It can be broken down. It can be broken down to where it's very simplistic, and you can develop your stories from that. I kind of like to think of it like coloring, and I know that's also very simple, but you know, you get a sheet of paper, and maybe it's got a pattern printed on it and maybe it doesn't. But initially you're starting out with only white and maybe white and black. And then you have an array of colors. Well, you can either look at your array of colors, your box of 64 crayons, and be overwhelmed by the fact that you have 64 options for every single little piece on that paper. Or you can just pick up blue and just start with blue. And you know that blue makes you feel calm, or blue makes you feel cool or relaxed. So maybe you make some relaxing. Okay, and then maybe you pick up a red, and you know that red makes you feel very energetic and very loved, and so maybe you make some love. Okay, it's the same idea. Just pick up one at a time. Keep it simple. You know, kiss. Keep it simple, silly. You know. So I hope this helps you guys out a little bit with reading tarot and makes it a little less overwhelming for you. I know that when this was broken down for me, man, it was like, thank goodness, because, man, I needed that. So I hope it kind of helps you out the same way. I hope you have a great week. I will have another video next Wednesday before Thanksgiving. For those of us who are here in America, in the United States, we do have Thanksgiving next Thursday. But I will do a video before then. I will be in the shop. So have a great week until then. Stay warm this weekend. I know, like, we're looking at some snow this weekend, a little bit. It's still too much. I hate snow. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Have a good one.